welcome to the Pulitzer Art Museum. This tour is called If You Need to Use the Art. Who's been to this museum before? Awesome. So you're all really familiar with this space. That's great. Well, hopefully today you'll see some things that you have never seen before at the Pulitzer. And today we have a very special opportunity. We're gonna go to some of the lesser known pieces in the Pulitzer's permanent collection. It's all contemporary art. Some of these are rarely made accessible to the public, and some you've probably seen before, but maybe haven't taken the time to really notice or spend some time with. Some pieces, people might not even consider them art, but I think they're all art objects, and all of them highlight the relationship and the connections between the museum and the city, and that reciprocal relationship that those two things have. So those connections really shape your museum experience. We'll make 5 stops, and we'll spend a maximum of 10 minutes at each stop, and the whole thing will take us about an hour. Each stop includes an associated interpretive card, so feel free to pick those up as you move through the tour. Sometimes they have a visual aid on them that can be really helpful, and you can take them home with you when you go. A few quick guidelines. Since we're gonna go behind the scenes at the Pulitzer today, there's no photos in the behind the scenes spaces, and it's important to really stick with the group. So we're visiting areas that aren't accessible to the public, and it's a really big privilege. We'll be visiting all floors of the museum, so if you prefer to use the elevator, stick with Jenny, she's your elevator guide. And I know that we are surrounded by a ton of beautiful art, and I promise we'll come back and talk about it later. But let's begin. Let's take a moment together to appreciate the silence of the museum as compared to the noisiness of the neighborhood around us. So let's close our eyes, take a deep breath. It's so peaceful. You can almost forget where you are. And here we go.
Follow me to the first stop. Come on in. All right, has anyone been here before? No? We are now in the Pulitzer's Mechanical Gallery. The Mechanical Gallery houses an amazing collection of objects which our facilities curators maintain, such as the electrical room, the boiler room, and something called an IT closet. The air filter, it's an essential piece of a larger kinetic sculpture known as the filtration system. So of all these objects in the Mechanical Gallery, why did we choose this one to show you all? Well, the air filter has a particularly special cultural importance. It protects all the other works in the museums. Without it, artists would not allow their works to be shown here. Can anyone guess how many air filters are in use in the building right now? Anybody? Take a guess.
100. 50. 80. 75. That's 76. Oh. 60. 65. 66. 68. 68.
Yeah.
Yes, 69 air filters. Okay, so that's an awful lot of air filters, 69 of them. Why do we need so many air filters? Why is the air so dirty? Maybe we should step back and think a little bit about the context of this artwork. What is it that air filters do? Anybody?
Filter air.
Air filters filter the air. They filter out outdoor air pollution, and in St. Louis, that's mostly from cars and manufacturing. Did anybody here drive here today?
Yeah.
The outdoor air pollution, it also comes from the power plants that produce our electricity. And Missouri relies on coal for its power more than 47 other states. And in St. Louis, we mostly get almost all of our power from coal. We have 3 power plants that ring the region, and they're also 3 of the dirtiest in the country. Does anybody know what publicly traded company produces the power for St. Louis? Yes, Ameren. Ameren is the private company that is also our regional utility. Ameren's stock symbol is spelled AEE. Does anybody know how to pronounce AEE?
Aye.
Right. Great.
Close. It's more like aye, something like that. Sorry about that, Mike. The largest of Ameren's plants is Labadie. It's out west on the Missouri River. Its coal ash ponds, they leach arsenic and other heavy metals into the river and the groundwater. And it's ranked second nationally for sulfur dioxide and CO2 emissions. The coal that Ameren burns for our power, that mostly comes from Wyoming. Does anybody know what publicly traded company owns most of those Wyoming mines? Yes, Peabody,
Stock symbol BTU.
which is very clever. Yeah. So both Ameren and Peabody, they are headquartered here in St. Louis. One of them is located near the Arch and the other is located near Union Station. So when you think about it, Ameren, well, it creates our electricity used to power the filtration system. It also creates the air pollution that filtration system is designed to filter out. So we pollute the air in order to purify the air. Now that's art.
That's art.
This object, it's also a powerful reminder of the high asthma rates here in St. Louis and those St. Louisans who are disproportionately affected by air pollution. Those are often lower income communities of color where public agencies have traditionally cited freeways
So, cars.
and industry.
Manufacturing.
This sculpture, it makes a very complex statement. It's one of my personal favorites. It always leaves me with more questions than answers. I invite you all to take a closer look now as we walk out. There's cards up there on your right, and we'll move on to our second stop.
It's pronounced Labadie.
Labby.
Okay, welcome to our second stop. This is called toilet. And this is actually one of the objects that is on permanent display, but it's also probably one of the most overlooked items in the collection. And we're going to ask you just not to flush just yet, okay? This is an example of what we call participatory art. And when participatory art has a social purpose, as toilet obviously does, it's often called social practice, or sometimes art historians refer to it as relational aesthetics.
Nobody knows why.
Yeah, who knows? Now, we're not going to invite you to engage with the object right now. It's generally, engaged with best privately or individually, but we are going to just take a few minutes to talk about how toilet works. Now, you can think of toilet as a tiny piece of a much larger participatory artwork. It's a civic artwork called City of St. Louis Water Infrastructure. And this is a work that is designed, its social purpose is to move water through the city from the Missouri River to the Mississippi River. So imagine, you can close your eyes if it will help, you don't have to, but imagine this work is a vast and invisible network of underground pipes, but it has key sites of emergence where it comes above ground, and at these sites, people add and subtract things that change the water's composition. So can you guys start to visualize that? Okay, and you can look, this is actually one of the stops where it's helpful to look at the back of the card. We have a little diagram there. Okay, so let's think about this journey that the water takes, okay? And we'll start with the city's water source, which is the Missouri River, upstream from St. Louis. So what gets added, what do people add before it gets to St. Louis? And let's just think about the storm water and what goes into the storm water that ends in the river. Okay, so you have pesticides, you have car wax, arsenic, a lot of nuclear waste in St. Louis, all kinds of good things. What else? What else goes into the stormwater?
Agricultural runoff.
Agricultural stuff, okay. Anything else?
Litter?
Litter, yeah, for sure. A lot of litter. Trash. Anything else? A lot of
Motor
plastic
oil.
bottles. Motor oil. Okay, great. And remember, there's a couple of Ameren plants up there, and they are contributing arsenic and metals from their coal ash ponds. Okay. the stormwater is going to flow down the river, and it's going to be taken up. This is where it comes above ground at City of St. Louis's 2 water purification plants. Okay, and one's on the Missouri River, but the closest one to here is actually a chain of rocks. Now that is technically on the Mississippi River, but because it's just below the confluence and it's on the west bank, most of that water is still Missouri River water. And those plants are going to take out a lot of the toxics that got added.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. And they're going to use Ameren's electricity to do it.
Right, there's actually really complex and interesting connections between air filter and toilet. And then the plant is going to add salts and disinfectants, a lot of other cool things, and then they're going to pump that water down back through the pipes, okay, into every building in the city that's paid the water bill. Okay, does the Pulitzer pay its water bill? Okay, easiest question on the whole tour. The Pulitzer pays its water bill, so it comes into toilet, right? Okay, and now it's your turn. What are you guys going to add to the water at this above ground site? Human waste, urine. Okay, more specifically, anything else?
Coffee from earlier today.
Coffee, a little caffeine goes into the water. Anything else?
Paper.
Paper, special paper.
Antidepressants.
There's going to be a lot of Prozac in there, maybe some cannabis.
Chewing gum.
Chewing gum. Really interesting. Okay, and then everyone here is going to actually add microplastics as well, right? Okay, and now we're going to flush. Okay, we're going to send that water back underground into the pipes, and it's going to go to the Bissell wastewater treatment plant. Now, the city of St. Louis has 7 wastewater treatment plants, but that's the closest one, and it's actually north of here on the Mississippi. And then that treatment plant's going to take out the solids that a lot of you just added, and the Prozac's going to stay. Okay, all the drugs are going to probably stay in because we don't know how to take those out. Then they're going to add chlorine to disinfect, but the chlorine's toxic, so they're going to add bisulfates to neutralize the chlorine, and finally they're going to pipe that out into the Mississippi River. Except if it's a rainy day, when you add all that stuff and you flush it, it might not go to the wastewater treatment plant. Instead, it might go into the overflow pipes if the stormwater pipes are at capacity. And then whatever you have added generously is going to go into overflow pipes and directly into the Mississippi River. Okay, and then that is going to become the drinking water for Memphis and New Orleans downstream. Just as, and they have similar infrastructural, it's going to go through very similar infrastructural participatory artworks in those cities, just as, if you can imagine, our water before it comes to us flows through very similar civic participatory artworks in Kansas City, Omaha, and near the headwaters, Great Falls, Montana. Can you visualize this journey? Because I think what Toilet does, what I really love about Toilet, is it invites us to imagine this journey. Like, right? Where does our water come from? What happens to it before it gets to us, and what happens to it afterwards? Okay, great, thanks. I think we're ready to go to our next stop.
Welcome to the Gallery of Administrative and Financial Objects. The public is very seldom allowed in this gallery, and these documents are rarely shown, so this is a very special opportunity. The museum stores these objects safely in a special cabinet called the Cabinet of Fungibility, and these are just 3 of the precious objects that we store there.
Very careful.
Does anyone know what these are?
Tax forms.
W-9s.
Yeah, they're W-9s. Here's Aaron's, here's Jenny's, and here's mine. Now, what I really love about these W-9 forms is what they tell us about the magical realism of money. So these are a promise of money forthcoming, and that money we can turn into absolutely anything, as long as some of it is turned into taxes, which the government can then turn into absolutely anything as well. Here's $10. This is part of my artist payment that came from this W-9. If I gave you this $10, anyone, what would you turn it into?
Coffee.
Coffee. Very common answer. We could probably get 2 good cups of coffee out of this, right? Me, when I'm not being an artist, I'm running a plant nursery, so I'm probably gonna turn this into seeds, which I will then plant in the ground.
That's real.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah, where's magic? That's real.
What are you gonna do with it, Jenny?
Okay, so now I have $10 of my artist payment. And I'm going to turn this into part of a monthly payment on my Prius.
Magic.
And then Toyota is going to take the part it gets and it's going to turn it into a payment to a third-party battery supplier.
It's more magic.
And the supplier is going to turn it into a payment for a Prius battery.
More magic.
And the battery company is going to turn it into a payment to a cobalt supplier.
Magic.
Okay. And the cobalt supplier is going to turn it into a payment to a mining company.
Magic.
And the mining company is going to use it to pay an 8-year-old in the Democratic Republic of Congo $2 an hour to dig cobalt, which is carcinogenic, out of the ground.
That's real.
Yeah,
That's
pretty real.
Wow.
So I'm going to take my $10 and I'm going to invest it in a high-interest savings account.
Magic.
In 3 years, I'm going to have $10.90.
A little bit of magic.
And the bank's going to take that $10 and they're going to invest it in some blue chip stock company, something like Berkshire Hathaway.
Magic.
Berkshire Hathaway is going to take the $10. They're probably going to spend it. They're probably going to invest in something like Exxon.
Magic.
And Exxon's going to take that $10 and they're going to use it to pay oil field workers in something like Pennsylvania or Nigeria to pull oil out of the ground.
That's pretty real.
But those oil field workers, they're going to take that $10 and they're going to put it in something like an IRA retirement fund.
Magic. So, does anyone want to take a turn? What's going to happen to your $10? Any volunteers? We'll give you the bill, but you do have to give it back.
But you get to enjoy it.
But you get to enjoy it for a moment. Want to try?
I think I would spend this $10 on takeout. Magic.
Yeah. And then what would happen to it?
And then it would probably be spent, handed forward to suppliers, agribusiness, and then probably spent by agribusiness to pay farm workers and chemical companies to spray the ground, and then suppliers to carry the food.
Oh,
pretty
magic
real.
and
Yeah,
some
magic
pretty real,
and real.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was good, yeah. Does anyone else want to try?
I would take this and buy some much needed cat food for my cat.
All right. Magic. Well,
It's pretty real.
It's pretty real.
If you ask
Magic
her, it's
cat.
pretty real. And then, of course, I think this $10 would then go to the suppliers, the company I bought it from, and potentially into innovations to try to make better cat food.
Okay.
Because I try to buy good cat food for my cat.
That's magic, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, back down to their suppliers and workers, and hopefully to pay for the grain or the protein, whatever goes into the cat food.
Okay.
That's pretty real.
Cool. Okay, so one of the things we find really interesting is that when we give this $10 to folks on the tour, everybody has interesting things to do with it, but it almost never ends up. No one seems to envision their money ever at any point turning into investments in Exxon or BP or Berkshire Hathaway, right? It never becomes things that then will become fossil fuels, right? Or so we find that really, really interesting that people don't see their money becoming oil. And we also find it a tiny bit suspicious.
So let's think about it. What was this $10 before? And what is it going to be next? What will it turn into? When was it last oil or fossil fuels? And when will it turn back into oil or fossil fuels?
What's magic?
What's real?
What's money?
Okay, time for our break.
Yep. If you want to follow us, it's time for our mandatory break. Hey, does everybody get these breaks? Like, are they state mandated?
No, Missouri, and like 32 other states. They leave it up to the generosity of the employer.
Missouri, shocked, right? Shocking.
Yeah. Luckily, we work for the Pulitzer, so
Yeah,
we get to
lucky.
take breaks.
Luckily.
Good.
What are you guys doing after work today?
Cooking, dinner. What's today?
Sunday.
Helping out with my neighbor's kids usually on Sunday. Usually try to get some house cleaning done. How about you?
I promised a friend I'd help her move, but
For
she's gonna pay me.
Pizza and beer.
Yep.
Pizza and beer.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are just doing more work.
What? No.
Sounds
No,
like
we're
work
off
to
at
me.
5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're off at 5. Yeah. Well, here. Oh, would you mind picking that up for me, please? Thank you. Who empties that thing? You guys ever seen anybody empty that thing? Is it empty
Tracy.
itself?
No.
Tracy empties it. You know Tracy.
Tracy. You
No,
know
why
Tracy?
would we know Tracy?
How could you not know Tracy? I mean, Tracy's in here taking out our trash. I mean, he's one of those folks that just like keeps this whole place going. Like without Tracy, there
go
isn't
again,
a
right.
museum. I mean, there's a whole group of folks like that, like keeping the air conditioning running, keeping the heat running. There's like lawyers, there's
Wait a
insurance
second.
people,
Wait,
there's
hang on.
curators. Like it's just
Hang
a
on.
whole network of
What's up?
people.
Yeah, we're just on our break. It's going good, I think.
Anybody read that New York Times
it's
article?
work.
The one about
better
cobalt
than
and our iPhones.
Being an accountant.
I mean,
Whatever.
there's all these
Anyway,
kids
what's up?
in
What do you need?
the middle of Africa, and
Yeah.
they have to dig up
Okay.
cobalt so that people can talk on their
Does it have to be
iPhone, so
tonight?
that people can scroll
Could
on
be
their
later?
iPhone all
Could be
day,
tomorrow?
and
No?
like
Okay, you need it.
they're
All right.
getting
For the chicken?
cancer or something
Okay.
when they should be in school,
Okay.
and it's just a mess.
All right.
I don't know. It
Okay,
makes me really
wait
upset.
a second. Aaron,
There's-
I can't.
right now.
Okay, Mom. Okay, got it. Thanks. All right. She needs me to take her to Trader Joe's after work today.
Yeah, more work.
For work. I get it.
Oh,
Oh,
we gotta go.
so break's over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Break's over.
What's the
Next stop.
Upstairs.
Upstairs, right. Mezzanine. Let's go.
Remember to leave your snacks in here. No snacks in the museum.
All right, so we've saved our most monumental piece for last. This work is titled City 1, Redevelopment. It's a work of land art that includes the Grand Center Arts District and pretty much, well, everything you can see from here.
Can anyone think of another piece of land art?
Spiral jetty. Spiral jetty.
Oh yeah, Spiral Jetty. That's a great one. Yes. So Spiral Jetty is a piece by Robert Smithson in the Great Salt Lake. It's one of the most famous examples of land art. And land art isn't static. It changes over time, right? So just like Spiral Jetty, this work is exposed to the elements. Wind, rain, sunlight, and those changes tend to happen very slowly. However, this work is also shaped by other forces. Forces that can work rapidly, much more rapidly than the natural elements. We call these forces the acronymic forces of governance. And what's the acronym for acronymic forces of governance?
AFGs.
AFGs. Okay, everybody say it. AFGs.
AFGs.
Okay, we can have a little more enthusiasm than that. AFGs. All right, there we go. Okay, the AFGs. What are the AFGs? They are powerful urban forces of redevelopment. They're very mysterious. Okay, they're just as mysterious as they are powerful, and they have been especially powerful in this area since the 1980s. And they largely determine what gets built and what gets demolished. So if you guys look out all around you, you see the AFGs at work. And they also often really determine who gets to be here, who gets to stay here, and who doesn't. Now, who controls these AFGs, these powerful, mysterious forces? Well, again, they're mysterious. It's hard to know often. But in general, these are public-private partnerships, and they're run by boards or commissions. And who is on the boards? It's usually a combination of NGO leaders, corporate executives, and sometimes public officials. And basically what the AFGs do is the boards do is they take public subsidies and they use the subsidies to transform and redevelop the landscape. Usually they do this by turning public money into private wealth.
Magical realism.
Magical realism.
Yeah. So everybody's got that, right?
Right?
Great.
Totally clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe we should talk about these AFGs, these acronymic forces of governance. We might start with something called a TIF district.
TIF.
There's a
All right.
there's a TIF district right out there, and there. Actually, there's a lot of TIF districts out there. One of them's just down the street and helped build Slew's Arena, actually. Now, does anyone know what TIF stands for? Yes, tax increment financing. Can anyone tell me how a TIF works? No?
I can, I can try. So for this project, I've done a lot of research, and a TIF is a place where you don't pay taxes, and then so your tax money goes into a fund that then
No. Okay, wait. The city freezes the taxes, and then you get rid of like the people who are there, and you build new stuff, but the new stuff doesn't have to pay the taxes because it's in this fund and
No. I think we should. So I also did a lot of research. I watched some YouTube videos, and I'm pretty sure a TIF works something like, so there's a place that nobody's going to develop, but a developer decides he's going to develop it, and then the city freezes the property taxes, but the taxes don't actually freeze; they keep going. It's just that it goes to the developer instead. So the developer pays taxes to themselves along with 50% of the sales tax, and then it goes into a fund for like 20 something years, and it all works out because other people go there and they start to develop without those incentives, and then everybody gets more money.
That's clear, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
I think we can move on.
So there's also
Covered the TIF.
there's also something called a CID out there,
CID.
Community Improvement District. A CID, it uses money it generates through a special sales tax to make improvements. You might know like a CID is out there because you see improvements like signage on working lampposts, or sidewalks that are kind of new and shiny, or maybe even private security guards. Another important AFG, or acronymic force of governance, we might want to talk about is something called a redevelopment corporation, the RCs.
RC.
RCs are kind of the kings of AFGs, and a really big one is just down the street. It's the St. Louis Midtown Redevelopment Corporation.
SLMRC.
Yes, the SLMRC. It's a public-private partnership between St. Louis University,
SLU.
SSM Health,
SSM.
and the City of St. Louis.
STL.
STL.
Since the 80s, City 1, redevelopment, has been profoundly shaped by 6 RCs, 3 of which are still around today. Those are the St. Louis Redevelopment Corporation,
L.
DC, the St. Louis Midtown Redevelopment Corporation,
You guys do it.
LMRC.
Okay.
and the Washington University Medical Center Redevelopment Corporation.
Okay, no help.
WUMCRD.
All right. Age wins.
What other AFGs am I missing?
We have an enhanced enterprise zone everywhere you can see.
EZ.
A promise zone.
PZ.
An opportunity zone.
OZ.
St. Louis Economic Development Partnership.
STLP.
Where's the
That's
E
it.
and the D?
I don't know, but they're not there.
That's confusing.
Branding.
All right.
All right.
Well, I think we did a really good job with this one.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah,
Okay.
everyone gets it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, follow us. We're going to meet down in front of the most iconic spots in the entire museum, and we're going to wrap this whole thing up.
Okay, now we're at the end of our tour. We've seen 5 really wonderful works of art. We hope you agree that these are very evocative. We really hope that you've enjoyed them, and all of them really emphasize the connections between the museum and the city. We like to think of the museum as a refuge from the city, right? It's this place that you come in and it's quiet and you watch these beautiful objects and you get away from the city. But today we've really emphasized works of art that emphasize how your experience here and the museum itself are really shaped by connections to the city that are very abundant and often very problematic. So we'd like to actually end the way that we began the tour. We'd actually like to ask you all to close your eyes and really close your eyes, okay?
And open our eyes. And now let's use the art. What do you all see here?
A long rectangle.
Okay.
And black.
Blue and black. I'm so glad that you said that. So this is Blue Black by Ellsworth Kelly. It is an impactful, site-specific work created to highlight the building's architecture. The shades of blue and black, the sculpture's dimensions, and even the location were carefully selected to create a dynamic balance with Ando's vision. This aluminum sculpture is 28 feet tall, with each panel being approximately 14 feet. The internal structure is honeycombed in order to provide stability for the outer panels. If you look up, you'll see a skylight. The skylight is positioned above and creates a constantly shifting light beam. This actually changes the viewer's perspective of the piece throughout the day. So just a little bit about Ellsworth Kelly's Blue Black. I want to thank you all for joining us today on this tour, and I hope that you had a wonderful time. We loved having you. I want to invite you all back to explore the exhibitions that we currently have on view, which are Fay Heavy Shield, Confluences, and The Nature of Things, Medieval Art from 1100 to 1550. So again, thank you for joining us, and please join us again.